Hey guys, Hardware Hound here, and I can't believe that we are only at the end of the first day of CES. And I don't even think I'm going to survive day 2 or 3, but that's all right because we're here at Silverstone and they've got some really cool stuff. So I'm going to kind of glance over some things a little bit and kind of highlight it. For instance, they've got some server chassis here that's really cool. They've got like this little guy here, and I know it's just kind of in the distance, but if you notice, it's small. And yet somehow they've got like 8 drive bays right here in the front. So you can have like a file storage server thing on a kind of micro ATX motherboard, which is kind of cool. They've got another server here that has some kind of cool features, some cooling for some extra graphics. They've got a CPU cooler so that you can fit some extra cooling there. And they actually squeeze in a 120mm fan in the back because a lot of server motherboards, they have a short I/O panel thing, and so that gives you that little bit of extra cooling to kind of help push that air out the back. So, you know, those are some cool things, but come on, you guys came for like gaming, awesome chassis, right? So it's not that these other things aren't awesome in their innovation, but let's get real. All right. Let's start out with this little guy. This is the LD03, and it's a mini ITX system. And one of the things that you'll notice right away if you're paying attention, there's a graphics card right here, and it is vertically mounted, but not the way you're used to being vertically mounted. So basically there's a panel here, and if I push some tabs and pull this guy out, sorry guys, I've been talking all day. I'm still barely finishing off the last bit of a cold, so I might cough a couple times. All right, so if I pull that guy out, there's a panel here, and the first thing you'll notice is, bam, look at that. What's going on here? That's our I/O panel. That's the inputs and outputs for the graphics card. So this panel comes off, and we've got, you know, really nice tempered glass panel going on here. Try to find a place to set all this stuff. And now I can turn this thing around and you can see how they've designed this case. Look at this. It is a vertical design. It's really awesome. 120mm fan here, 120mm fan here. We're keeping a single directional flow. You guys saw that? If you guys saw that case I tried to design, I tried to do something kind of similar, although, you know, on a smaller form factor. I think it's going to be way more effective than what I was able to pull off. So yeah, what's really cool then is you can still see the side of the graphics card if there's RGB there, but there's 2 little tabs that you just pull out, and then this panel will just slide right off. I love that design. And then, bam, look at that. You can see the graphics card. You can see everything just facing you. You can see the side and the bottom. That's kind of fantastic, right? I mean, that's a really, it's taken how many years for somebody to think of something like this? That's fantastic. And so everything will just kind of slide in. You can put this panel back on, and, you know, once I put that panel and just push those buttons in, it's on there and it's good. So let's go ahead now and move on to the evolution of that idea in the full-size form factor. This is the Raven prototype. They don't have an official model number yet, but Silverstone took this concept and also brought it to a full tower case. So if I'm not mistaken, this front panel lifts up. And once again, if we come over here to the top, we can kind of see that there is an input-output panel here and all the outputs for the graphics cards right here in the top. And once again, if we lift this panel out, look at that. Vertically mounted graphics cards. Airflow coming from 2 180mm fans in the bottom, coming right out to the top for a 120 here, and you can see the graphics cards. You can see the side logo. Now, come over here real quick. Here's the deal. This is still in the prototype stages. Silverstone's deciding on what see-through material they're going to use. When they're done, the bottom of your graphics card, all the RGB lighting and goodness, right here in the front. The most important part of the PC part, I know I talked about the monitor being the bottleneck, but I'm talking about the actual build. The graphics card is kind of the big deal, right? You got a gaming system, it's your graphics card you're wanting to show off. You're going to see it right here in the front. That is kind of fantastic. Absolutely great. And also, another little side benefit, There's no GPU sag on this. None. It's just going to sit straight. You're not going to have a sagging GPU. That is a fantastic design. All right, I believe we've got one more really cool case here to kind of come over to see. So let's kind of squeeze in here. There's a couple other designs and really good stuff, but they're, you know, more evolutions of other designs. But Silverstone did show me the RL8 right here. And so this little guy takes some of that redesigning the layout and takes it to a different level for micro ATX. So with micro ATX, the biggest problem is if you mount the graphics card on the bottom, there's no breathability almost whatsoever. Okay, I can get this panel off. I know I can. I bet you I just haven't gotten one of these thumb screws out quite enough. That was exactly what the case was. So here we go, guys. We're going to do upside down this time. Why? Because the graphics card on the bottom, it gets really close to the edges of the case. It makes it very, very hard for it to breathe. So when we flip the motherboard upside down, we've got a graphics card that can now breathe through the top of this case. No problem. We have a nice mesh dust filter up top. But if you guys have had an upside down graphics card, you might have noticed something. If you think GPU sag is bad when it's normally installed, when it's upside down installed, it gets even worse. So Silverstone put a nice little bracket right here that'll prop up that graphics card, keep it from sagging, and that is fantastic. We've got airflow vents here that are angled down to help with noise, keep that noise pointed down as much as possible, and we also have an angled cable management tray to make it really easy to plug in your SATA cable to your motherboard from the back of the case, which is fantastic. Okay. Keep going here. Everything's in one room, so it makes it a little easier. Now, we have seen something like this earlier, but we got to show it off again. Look at this guy. It's a little itty-bitty tiny power supply, and it's 700 watts and gold rated. I don't know what wizardry has smushed power supplies, but it's kind of fantastic. Silverstone also mentioned something that was really cool. You know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, let's just put it this way. You can't have a chicken without an egg. And you can't have new designs in small form factor cases without new designs and small form factor peripherals. And so by making these power supplies smaller, they are helping build new innovation in cases. Now, we also have this guy. It's a little bit bigger. It's 450 watts. And you might be thinking, well, that doesn't sound all that impressive. It's a 450 watt power supply that looks like a brick, man. What are you talking about? Have you noticed anything yet? Not still? Haven't? Really? Okay. All right. Is there something that you notice is missing? Nothing here, right? It's just solid metal. Nothing here. It's solid metal. What's missing here? This thing is completely sealed. This is a fanless power supply. And what Silverstone did is they broke up the PCB in 3 pieces, and they put the PCB to these different panels, and they put if you kind of see there, you'll see these like kind of little bit of fins and stuff on the edges. And so this guy, the outside of the power supply, is going to act as the heat sink for everything on the inside. And guess what? You're not going to probably hear any kind of coil whine because all the coils are sealed. Because back in the old days when you would do fanless power supply, you'd have to have all this open venting, and if the coils weren't done just right, you would hear electrical noise coming from this guy. Well, that's what this dude solves. Those of you who love absolute silent PCs, this guy might be your ticket. So we've got quite a few other units, and Silverstone has not just crunched these guys at 700 watts. They've crunched several of these, like this guy here. This looks like a normal size power supply, and yet it's 1200 watts with an 80+ platinum rating. And look at that, it's short. Like, it's not like your normal 1200 watt power supplies. And then they did this thing. Yeah, that says 2000 watts, guys. 2,000 watts. So my mind's already blown because I'm looking at a 2,000 watt power supply. I'm thinking, the heck is going on here? And then it dawned on me, wow, it's also not big. I mean, I've seen 1600 watt power supplies. They're like this long, and this guy is kind of like what 1,200 watt power supplies used to be. They've crammed 2,000 watts of power into this small, simple design. I don't know what kind of sorcery is going on, and you know what? Let's just say we won't get pitchforks and stakes out just yet, because I think this is the good kind of witchcraft. All right, guys, so we got just a few more things going on. I thought these things were pretty cool. We got all kinds of M2 and form factor adapters. So for instance, we have these little guys here, and you can just pop this USB 3.0 port, and you can put like a traditional SATA drive that is in the M2 form factor, and you can create your own USB drive that is using a SATA controller, and so it'll probably be a heck of a lot faster than your usual USB 3.0 or 3.1 drives. But they even took it to the next step, and even though it doesn't have a movable part because of the heat, this will actually handle NVMe drives, and you can connect them by USB-C, which I thought was pretty cool. And they got some more adapters along those lines. Coming over here now, guys, of course, you know I'm going to touch on this stuff, but Silverstone has CPU coolers, and they have RGB. Yes! All right, I know not everybody loves that, but I do. I can't resist it. They're going to have an RGB logo on the block here and RGB fans to match. So for those of us who love all those brilliant lighted colors, we're going to be able to get to handle that. And then finally, we got some updates to some CPU coolers. Got a RGB fan added to one of their tower coolers. I got a couple more adapters and things. I really thought this was cool. If you don't have a USB Type-C header on your motherboard, they've got an adapter that'll adapt it to a USB 3.0. Yeah, sure, you might lose some of that speed, but hey, you can still use that Type-C port, which is nice. That is pretty awesome. But here's a really cool thing. So Silverstone has always had some slim fans. These ones are looking a little bit sturdier, that's for sure. And sometimes when you have that small form factor PC, it is nice to have a really nice slim fan. But you know what doesn't exist is a slim fan that has RGB, and Silverstone now has one, and it now exists. So if you want an RGB fan for that home theater case because you would like a little bit of lighting and you didn't think it exists, well, it does now. So guys, that is Silverstone for you. They've got quite a few things, obviously a little more than I can totally go over in one talking session, but there is just, I'm telling you guys, this vertical mounting on the cases with the GPUs, this is the kind of stuff I live to see. When I get to come and see somebody do something so new and innovative like that, blows my mind, makes me happy. I love it. Guys, this is the first day of CES. We are now done. I will catch you later.